They left a knot tied for 30 years. Now it's learning how to kill. The first time I saw it happen, I thought it was a heart attack. A man in a cheap suit on the evening train, slumping against the glass. People shifted, gave him space. His face went a blotchy purple. I was off duty, tired, my head full of paperwork, but my feet moved on their own. By the time I got to him, he was gone. The paramedics called it on the platform. Just another salaryman whose heart gave out. Except I'd noticed his tie. A cheap polyester thing with diagonal stripes. When he first started choking, I saw it. The knot, a clumsy Windsor, had been loose. A finger's width of space from his collar. When I knelt over him, it was flush against his throat, not just tight. It was cinched like a zip tie, the fabric distorted into a perfect, hardened little nub of pressure right on his carotid artery. I told my boss. He told me to take a vacation. Then we got the call to a walk up in the West End. A university student, a girl named Anja. She was in the bathtub, kneeling, like she was praying. Her long black hair went up and over the shower rail in a loop so clean, so impossibly perfect, it looked like a diagram in a textbook. There was no knot. My partner, Ren, wrote hair tied to rail. I took the pen from his hand and crossed it out. It wasn't tied. The loop was just holding. Like the hair had forgotten it was hair and decided to be a solid object. The weight of her head should have pulled it loose in a second. It didn't. I remembered the man on the train. The way his tie had gone from cloth to a garrote with no hands to guide it. This is the third one this month, Ren said, his voice flat. He was trying not to look at the girl. First one was a hiker out by the old trails. Straps on his backpack just constricted, crushed his ribs. Then a warehouse worker got tangled in some packing twine. The ME said the knots were some kind of compound figure eight, but there was no friction burn. It was like they were just placed there, already tight. A pattern without a person. A method without a motive. My brain was screaming serial killer, but my gut was whispering something else. Something worse. At each scene, tucked away somewhere stupidly obvious, we found the same thing. A single, tiny braid of rice straw. No bigger than my pinky nail, in the hiker's boot tread. In the warehouse worker's pocket lining. In the girl's soap dish. It was our only link. Forensics identified the straw. Aki Roman, an old strain, hardy, grows in cold weather, barely cultivated anymore. Except in one specific region, a string of hamlets up in the mountains that time had forgotten, a place called Nawagami. I drove up there alone. The city peeled away and the road narrowed, climbing into cedar and fog. The air got thin and cold. Nawagami wasn't so much a town as a scar. A few old houses with silvering wood, a concrete torii gate that looked tired of standing, and a small windowless storehouse with a heavy iron latch on the door. Hanging from the gate's crossbeam was a thick rope of straw, a shimenawa. But it was wrong. The straw was too yellow, too new. The braiding was too perfect, machine tight. It looked like a prop, a tourist attraction. You a cop? The voice made me jump. An old woman stood in the doorway of the nearest house, her back a question mark. She held a basket of dried persimmons. Detective, I said. Looking for a ghost? She asked, her eyes crinkling. This is the place for them. I showed her a photo of the tiny straw braid. Her face went hard. Where did you get this? From places where people have died. She spat on the ground. The priest. That fool. He thinks a tradition is a stone you put on a shelf. He doesn't understand it has to breathe. She told me about the shrine. For centuries, its name was Nawagami, written with the character for twining or rope. The god of knots, of binding and releasing. But 30 years ago, a new priest arrived. He wanted to attract tourists. He changed the character. Same sound, different meaning. He started writing it as Naigami, inner god, safer, more serene. He stopped the ritual, the old woman said, her voice dropping to a whisper. My mother was the last one who knew the right way. She tried to tell him. He wouldn't listen. What ritual? The closing, she said. Every dusk, she would take a rope, an old one made from the first harvest. She'd tie a single loop through the granary latch, just one, clap twice, breathe warm air on the knot, to remind it that it was part of the living world, that its job had limits. She pointed a wrinkled finger from the granary to the gate. At dawn, she would untie it. She'd hang the rope, open and loose, on the gate, for the day, to let what it held overnight disperse in the light. Tie at dusk, untie at dawn. A lung, you see, breathing in, breathing out. It teaches the world how to bind and how to let go. My own breath felt tight in my chest. The priest, I said. What does he do? He hangs that thing up there, she sneered, nodding at the perfect yellow rope on the gate. Leaves it all year. A ceiling, he calls it, to keep the good spirits in and the bad ones out. I felt a cold dread wash over me, colder than the mountain air. He's doing it backwards. He leaves the knot tied. Always. Yes, the old woman said, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. He's not sealing anything in. He's teaching the world how to make a fist, how to hold on. And now it's forgetting how to open its hand. I stared at the pristine rope, at the tight, perfect, permanent knot in its center. A knot that hadn't been untied in 30 years. We'd found a serial killer, all right, and its weapon was everything. Hair, shoelaces, backpack straps, a cheap polyester tie. Anything that could be looped, anything that could be taught to hold on and never ever let go. I got a call on the way back down the mountain. It was Ren. He sounded spooked. We got another one. Downtown office building. Guy was found in his cubicle. How? I asked, even though I already knew. A pause. The cord in the window blinds, he said. It was wrapped around his chair. The armrests, the wheels. It pinned him. The coroner said, it looks like he died of dehydration. He was tied to his own desk chair for 3 days. I thought of the granary, of the old rope that was meant to be tied there every night, a place of storage, a place of containment. The ritual wasn't just symbolic, it was a lesson. It was teaching some fundamental principle of the world, its own nature. Close, then open. Bind, then release. The priest hadn't just stopped the lesson. He'd replaced it with a new one. Stay closed. Back at the precinct, the murder board was a map of the city with 5 red pins stuck in it. I took a marker and drew a circle connecting them. Dead center of the circle was Nawagami. It's a radius, I said to Ren. It's spreading. He just stared at me. What is? The knot. The old woman's daughter, Chisato, met me at the base of the mountain the next day. She had her mother's hard eyes and a box of old papers. She'd been a child when the new priest came, when her grandmother was dismissed as a superstitious old fool. She kept a ledger, Chisato said, her voice brittle. She pulled out a book bound in dark cloth. The pages were filled with elegant, spidery script. The details of the ritual, the exact way to twist the straw, the words to say. She always said, you can't just stop something like this. You can't build a dam and not expect the river to go somewhere else. We walked up the path to the shrine. The air was still, not peaceful still. It was the stillness of a held breath. The leaves on the trees didn't move. No birds sang. It was like the whole mountain was waiting. When we reached the gate, the tourist rope was humming, a low, resonant vibration like a plucked string. One of its paper tassels, a shide, was slowly, deliberately twisting itself into a tight little spiral. The wind wasn't blowing. It's getting stronger, Chisato whispered, clutching the ledger to her chest. It's learning. I looked from the vibrating rope on the gate to the old, silent granary. On its door, a single strand of old braid hung from a nail, gray and frayed. It looked like a cast-off thought, a forgotten command. We have to fix it, I said. It wasn't a question. Chisato nodded, her jaw tight. We have to do the ritual, the right way. We have to teach it how to let go again. She looked at the sky, where the sun was beginning its slow bleed towards the horizon. It has to be at dusk. That's when it listens, when the world is between light and dark. We waited. The silence deepened. I could feel the pressure in my ears, the weight of the air. I kept thinking about the girl in the tub, her hair holding a shape it shouldn't. I thought about the man in the office chair, a prisoner of window blinds. All these little things, these inanimate objects, all learning a single, terrible lesson. As the light began to fail, a deep orange staining the clouds, Chisato took a length of old gray rope from her bag. It felt nothing like the plastic Y thing on the gate. It felt soft, heavy, like sleeping muscle. She approached the granary door, but as she reached for the iron latch, the rope on the Torii gate twitched, violently. The whole thing snapped taut, the perfect knot in its center glowing for a second in the dying light. The humming intensified, a sound you felt in your teeth. Then, a new loop began to form in the rope on the gate, on its own. A section of the thick braid coiled around itself, pulling and tightening with a dry, rasping sound. It was forming a noose, a perfect, functional hangman's knot right in the middle of the path. "Hurry," I hissed. Chisato's hands were shaking. She fumbled with the old rope, trying to form the loop to place over the latch. "It's fighting," she gasped. "It doesn't want to be told." The noose on the gate drew tighter, a malevolent eye staring at us. The air grew frigid. My breath plumed in front of my face. I grabbed Chisato's hands, holding them steady. Her skin was ice. "Like your grandmother showed you," I said, my voice shaking. "Just like the ledger says." Together, we slid the loop of old rope over the iron latch. It felt like closing a circuit. The humming from the gate faltered for a second. "Clap twice," she breathed. We clapped. The sound was thin and dead in the oppressive quiet. "Now," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the knot we'd just made. "Breathe on it. Remind it that it's alive." I leaned in close. The knot was just a simple loop of graying straw on cold iron. But it felt like the most important thing in the world. I took a breath and pushed the warm air from my lungs onto the fibers. The world went absolutely silent. The humming from the gate stopped. The noose hung slack. For a moment, I thought we'd done it. Then, from the city far below us, I heard a chorus of sirens begin to rise. Faint at first, then more, and more, and more. A symphony of emergencies, echoing up the silent mountain. We had taught it how to close. We had reinforced the first half of the lesson. But dawn, and the lesson of letting go, was a long, dark night away, and I had a sickening feeling that we had just rung a dinner bell.